Queen as they are now were formed in February 1971 and have become one of the most successful rock acts in the world, with over 6 major albums and 10 hit singles. Well, let me introduce you now to the members of Queen. First of all, vocalist and piano player
Freddie Mercury.
On guitar and arranging and writing,
Brian May, I'm here.
On drums,
and occasional vocals, Roger Taylor. Yeah.
Welcome, Roger. And on bass and electric piano,
John Deacon.
Right. Together they've sold over 40 million records worldwide. That's quite something. And first of all, if I can ask you, Freddie, how did it all begin?
Very sort of briefly, Brian and Roger, they were in a sort of very up-tempo, raucous band called Smile, and I used to be in another band called Wreckage or something.
Even more up-tempo, with a name like Wreckage.
Even more up-tempo. And we used to be friends, I mean, you know, going to college together and sort of met up. And after sort of a couple of years of knowing each other, we just decided we'd form a band together, really. As simple as that. We thought our musical ideas would blend. Then we met John and decided to call the band Queen.
Roger, can we go to the beginnings of the group? You and Freddie were working, or you had a stall right in the Kensington market.
Yes, partners in crime.
Partners in crime.
Yes, it was really just it was more of a sort of social centre, I think, at the time. At the time that Queen was sort of in its formative stages, and we were going through all their traumas with trying to find somebody to manage us and find a record company, etc. We sort of slogged our way around, made some demo tapes, etc., through some friends, and then sort of hawked them round the business, as it was, and still is. Eventually sort of securing ourselves several companies who were interested. We then did a gig, I think it was at King's College, somewhere down in South London, and got a load of record companies along, and then we started to sort of try and wheel and deal a bit our way into a sort of good recording situation.
How long did it take you from the time that you'd made the demo to the time that you actually got a recording contract?
It felt like about 80 years, I think.
It was a long time. It was about 2 years.
Yeah, it was about 18 months, 2 years, yeah.
There was a great deal of feeling of frustration at the time. The first album was really old songs by the time it came out, as far as we were concerned. And it put us in a strange position because there were we were sort of one of the groups who came along with a show and a sort of an idea of a complete production as a stage show and everything. Whereas by the time the record came out, and particularly by the time it got played by anyone and all this, and it takes so long to get things going, it was all sounding like old news, you know, so people were inclined to tag us as the tail end of glitter rock or something.
Fairly sour relationship with the music press, as it's called in this country.
You don't like the music press, I understand.
No, to be perfectly honest, no.
But from the very sort of beginning, I think, as far as the musical press is concerned, I mean, they like, I mean, even now, they like to sort of put sort of up-and-coming bands into a sort of particular bag for what they think. And I think we sort of just rebelled. I mean, we wanted to sort of do what we thought was right and not sort of go along with what they were saying. And I think since the very early stages, there's always been this sort of fracas between...
Yes, it started from day one, with the release of our first album. Plus the fact that before our first actual release, we were virtually totally unheard of, and then suddenly we were not particularly famous, but heard of at least. And they always like to think they've got one up on you, and they always like to think they've predicted something.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden there we were, and we were playing to quite a lot of people, and it took people rather by surprise, I think.
Was this style, though, that you had created, was that thought out from the outset, or did it just evolve as time went by?
There were certain kind of ideals which we had in our heads, definitely certain patterns that we wanted to try and live up to. And I think, to put it crudely, we started off thinking that we wanted to be a kind of heavy group, but with good melodies and with good harmonies. And the other things grew out of that. And the first album was really just putting down what we did on stage at the time. It was quick into the studios and quick out. Even at that time, lots of big ideas about what we could do in the studio if we were let loose for a proper time in the studio. But we saved all that up to Queen 2, the second album. But a lot of the Queen 2 stuff was written at the time we made the first album.
Okay, well, let's take some music now from Queen 1. The first track we're going to play was about your first single, taken off Queen 1, Keep Yourself Alive. Brian, were you disappointed that this didn't do better?
Oh, yes. It takes me back very vividly to the time, actually, because this is just the time when we started. We did a few gigs on our own, some small gigs, and then went on the support tour with Mott the Hoople. And went around the whole country getting really good reactions and thinking, yeah, we're really getting somewhere. And yet all the time we were watching the single and the album and nothing appeared anywhere in the charts, you know. And it just seemed like an impossible wall. We thought, how is it done? You know, we couldn't get the single played on the radio at all, hardly. Well, there's a couple of people that played it, but it didn't get any sort of power play. But there's no doubt that the beginning is the worst. You know, you have no track record, you have no reputation.
John, can I come to you now? We haven't heard you for you, I'm sorry. You got a degree in electronics. Did this mean that the group all came to you and asked you questions when they had complicated bits of machinery to look at?
Not particularly. I used to help a little out in the early days, you know, when we, you know, basically when we started out there was just the four of us and one guy, our roadie, John Harris, who's been with us right from the beginning. And between me and him we used to do a lot in the early days. But now we have quite a larger crew of about 20 who look after it all for us.
Well, being in a 32-track studio with all the marvellous space-age electronics all around, do you find it difficult to sort of keep your hands off little buttons and say, what's this, what's that?
Well, we do. We all of us try to learn what the studio does. I mean, because it helps to get the sounds and the ideas and to do what you want. And we've all taken interest in what it is possible to do in a studio, technically. You know, because I mean, I think if a musician doesn't understand that, it limits, you know, the ideas that they can actually put down on tape.
Now, you were playing bass,
yes.
First of all, with Roger?
No, I basically I came down to London to university, and I was here for about 2 years. I wasn't playing at all. I used to play before I came to university in sort of groups at school and things like that. And then I gave it up when I came down. And after I was here for about 2 years, I bumped into, I think it was Roger and Brian somewhere, wasn't I?
Yeah.
And I heard, just socially, because they happened to be at different colleges around the same area in London, and I heard they were looking for a bass player. So I said I was interested, and went along for an audition, really. And it happened like that. I think you've been together for about 6 months previously, haven't you?
I think longer, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean
Well,
Queen?
that's
Yeah,
Queen, actually, with the name
yeah.
Queen. No,
Going through about
yeah,
3
yeah.
bass players a week at the time,
Yeah,
and we eventually found John.
yeah. Anyway, I seemed to fit in, and, you know.
Did you immediately agree on the kind of music you wanted to play?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they were already formed. I mean, to me, they had and then they had all the musical ideas then of what they were trying to do, and I just, you know, and I basically, you know, just fitted in really at that time.
He's very modest.
Yeah. Well, my development came later. It took me a few years to settle in.
Well, John, now it's your personal choice. What would you like to play
Yes,
now?
I'd chosen a track by Marvin Gaye. Heard it through the grapevine. I like a lot of these American sort of Tamla things, but for the bass players, some of the bass players are very nice. You know, you know, and it's a nice atmospheric song.
Okay, here it is. Marvin Gaye, Heard It Through the Grapevine. John, you are a family man, am I right in...
Sort of correct, yes. Yes. I have one little boy, yes.
Yes, right.
You know.
Do you find it difficult touring in the States and being away from family?
It can be a strain, yeah. You know, I try and, you know, make the two work together, you know, it can be difficult, but I try and fit it in.
How does he react to Daddy being a big star?
Well, I don't know, you can't talk yet.
How do you think he will react?
I don't know. I'll see then. Yeah, he's just starting to talk now, actually, so I'll find out what he's been thinking.
John is also the business brain of the group.
He's a business brain.
I tend to look into that a bit, yeah, some of that.
So you're examining the contracts and checking on the returns and...
Well, yeah, it's nice. It is, especially when you get to the level we got to. I mean, it's nice to know what's going on.
Brian, you did a degree in physics, and then you went on to do a PhD in astronomy.
Yeah.
What was the attraction of astronomy?
Something I'd always been interested in. As a kid, I used to look at the stars, and I built a telescope and things. And it was just something I thought if I ever had the chance to be an astronomer, I would give it a go. So I took a physics degree, and I mean, when you're at school, you don't really know what you're going to do. I think it's still true. You know, when you come out of school, you tend to do what you're best at, and if you happen to be good at physics, everyone tells you should do physics. So I did that, and it happened to be a good thing to lead on to astronomy.